Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The sun is setting over the sands of the Hekara, and the dead rise with the setting sun as they face off against the Dark Elves. I'll be commanding the Tomb Kings, and Lord Baltimore will have command of the Dark Elves. So for the Tomb Kings, we do have Arkan the Black leading the way. He is going to be running in tandem with a Tomb Prince, but he is going to be running with the Tomb Blade of Arkan. We have Staff of Nagash, the Liber Mortis, as well as the Fate of Buna, and Spirit Leech with My Will Be Done. For the Tomb Prince, on the other hand, he is going to be coming in with Guardian, so he's going to be sticking nice and close to Arkan, giving himself that 15% physical resist. We do have the Curse of Dejaf, which does give minus 24 melee attack and Rampage in an AoE when that Tomb Prince does drop below 50%, and he does have Tomb Strike, which gives 24 melee attack, can cause terror, and a nice little boost to that base weapon damage. For the rest of the army, we do have some skeleton horse archers giving a little bit of skirmish, a couple of skeleton spearmen up front to absorb that charge, and then the main fighting force is going to be some tomb guard, 3 units of those. We also have a couple of necropolis knights with their poison and armor piercing. We have some Dehekran horsemen on the far flanks for a little bit of sweeping up for the Tomb Kings, and then we have the Screaming Skull catapults in the back, going to be raining in that damage from a long range, and with the King Nekesh's Scorpion Legion going to be keeping them nice and safe with their poison and bonus versus large, keeping those Dark Riders at bay. Now for the Dark Elves who have invaded the lands of the Hekara, they will be running with the Supreme Sorceress of Fire, a good choice against the undead, coming in with Fireball and Burning Head. The rest of the army is going to be quite a bit of chaff, so we have some Bleak Swords with some Dread Spears mixed in for that front line, and then in their hiding positions, we will have a line up of Shades, 4 units of those. These guys do have that stock, and so with also that armor piercing, so they'll do quite well against those Necropolis Knights, being able to push in against their high armor. And then we also have quite a bit of mobility with a bunch of Dark Riders going to be kind of sweeping things up, so they will have to contend with that Hekran horseman, but there's going to be a bunch of Reaper bolt throwers as well. 3 units of those should have no problem dealing with the long range, and also will be able to kind of punch in against some of the constructs, especially with those single shots, and Arkan will have to be rather mindful of that in the meantime. But without further ado, let's get things rolling, as a Spirit Leech already going down on that Supreme Sorceress, but the shots going to be raining against these Necropolis Knights, and they are going to be kind of pulling back just a bit, trying to avoid as much of that incoming fire. It looks like most of the shots so far have indeed fallen to the wayside, but we are going to be getting a Fireball coming in from up on high, as it is going to be arcing its way right for the Screaming Skull catapults, and it is going to go right on through the uprights, as it is going to be landing just amongst the crew. A swing and a miss for that first shot, so it is still going to be 3 Screaming Skulls firing away, doing some good damage so far to these Bleak Swords, able to keep these guys nice and low, and they are going to be doing a bit of friendly fire, but those Bleak Swords should be breaking rather quickly, especially with Arkan and that Tomb Prince charging on in. The Undead giving that fear, and another Spirit Leech going to be dropping down on that Supreme Sorcerer, taking down a nice little bit of her HP so far early in this fight without a whole lot else to really contend against that air fight. The only thing is those roaming skeleton horse archers and the Reaper bolt throwers are going to be firing off in earnest, just kind of really plucking away at the health of these Necropolis Knights, doing a good job so far already. That their health is dropping down a considerable margin, and the shots just continue raining down. These Shades now are going to be revealed, so they are going to be taking a bit of fire from that Screaming Skull, who continues to rain those shots, and it's going to be staying out of range of those Reaper bolt throwers. But a nice Burning Head going to be arcing right through the Skeleton Spearman, and is going to be clipping these Tomb Guard just a little bit, as it's going to continue right into a second unit of Skeleton Spearmen, going to be taking a few of those and doing a bunch of damage to that. A very nice Burning Head early on, and it might even reach the last Tomb Guard, and it is going to just pitter out as it reaches them, but does do a little bit on top of that. But the frontline engagement is going to be underway. We do have a summon of Skeleton Warriors right on top of these Reaper bolt throwers from Arkan, as he's going to be completely replenishing that charge, engaging with those Spearmen, not doing a whole lot of damage with those Dread Spears, and they charge in with these Acropolis Knights right into the side of these shades, but they have taken a considerable amount of damage. We have a nice little engagement on the far side as these Acropolis Knights are able to deal with one of the Dark Riders, but with that Dread Spears, the Reaper Bolt Throwers firing in, and these Dark Riders coming in, that little group of units is going to be trying to back out and try and reposition themselves as the Screaming Skulls continue to arc their way across, as we get a nice rear charge with these Nehekran Horsemen into these shades, able to deal with these Dark Riders, no problem whatsoever, taking very little damage in the meantime. And the center ranks is kind of starting to collapse a bit for the Dark Elves as these Nehekran Horsemen trying to get a little way in. It looks like we have a new Shopti summon as well, going to be dropping on top of these shades to try to shut down that armor piercing, who has turned their attention to these Nehekran Horsemen. And another nice burning head through some very expensive Tomb Guard there, as it's going to be taking them down by allow those Dread Spears to kind of pull on back. And these Necropolis Knights with these Skeleton Horse Archers are trying to break into that little pocket, but unfortunately these Dark Riders and Shades are holding their own. Shades do have a considerable presence in terms of that melee fight. The Supreme Sorcerer of Fire still staying up and on high, taking a bit of damage from those Overcasts and from the Spirit Leeches, but so far is sitting nice and safe up on top of her flying steed as the rest of her army continues to fight amongst the sands. As she's just going to continue cycling overhead. Nothing to really worry about. Going to be getting another fireball. This time looking to probably arc its way right towards the Lord and Hero combination, and is going to land amongst them just as a summon goes off, trying to get rid of these Dread Spears and free up Arkan and that Tomb Prince, who have taken up quite a bit of damage. They've just been sitting inside of those spears, really unable to really break them. But now the center rank is starting to collapse for the Dark Elves. These Tomb Guard able to punch through, and there is that Curse of Dejaf, causing the Supreme Sorceress of Fire to rampage right down, and it's going to put her in range of the rest of the Tomb King forces just as these Dread Spears rout, and that is going to make Arkan and the Tomb Prince make a beeline straight for the Supreme Sorceress. Dark Elves cannot do anything at all to change the outcome of this, as the Supreme Sorceress is still rampage, going to be coming out of that, but now she's in a very bad spot as that Tomb Prince surrounded by Tomb Guard and the like, and she's going to be taking some massive hits, but it's going to be dropping a burning head right on top of these Tomb Guard. They're going to try and pull out. She does fall, but is going to be able to get one last laugh as she gets that burning head arcing its way on out, but does a nice bit of damage in that meantime. But without the spell casting, it is now down just to the infantry, and a very nice spread shot there into those Tomb Guard right across that whole unit, doing a nice bit of damage, and those Screaming Skulls continuing to fire away, almost out of ammunition at this point. Shades terror routing just for a little bit, but they are back in the fight, going to be turning their attention now towards these Tomb Guard, trying to get as much damage off of them. That summon does finally dissipate, and shots continue to rain in. Lots of the Dark Elves units are going to be routing, but there isn't a whole lot left for the Tomb Kings to really chase them down. Pretty much everything is tied up and very beaten down across the board. Balance power is slightly in the Dark Elves' favor as these Tomb Guard continuing to slowly crumble away, but the shots are going to continue to fall. But so much ammunition is left in these Shades. These guys are almost at full. They only have 22 models left, and the Spirit Leech drops onto these Dark Riders, trying to peel off as many of the models as possible, and you can see that trail as they do fall one by one. Now with those Shades gone, that Reaper Bolt Thrower is going to be next, as the Tomb Guard, Arkan, and that Tomb Prince all going to push on forward. One unit after the other is going to start slowly falling to their onslaught, while these Dark Riders are now going to be trying to make a run up against these Screaming Skulls, but that shot running in, taking a few more of those models down, and going to be causing them to rout. Reaper Bolt Thrower out, but all of these Shades now going to be able to turn their attention right towards all these units, and with how many units are left, these Shades should be able to get some very nice value in this late game. Both the Tomb Prince and Arkan getting very low, and the Tomb Guard are at critical binding. If these guys start crumbling, the support for the Lord and Hero of the Tomb Kings is going to start getting down close to that critical level. But Arkan and the Tomb Prince able to shut down at least one of the Shades, and just their close proximity is able to rout one of them. A summon of Skeleton Warriors trying to hem in these Shades, but they are able to find a nice little avenue out of that little pocket and are going to be running. But these Skeleton Warriors should give at least a little bit of open ground as they're going to continue pushing up against the Shades. Arkan, Tomb Prince with their speed on the horse is going to charge right into this last unit of Shades, hopefully tying them down just long enough for the Skeleton Warriors to get some damage in, but still units up. But stuff is starting to shatter for the the Dark Elves pushing the balance power in the favor of the Tomb Kings in this late stage of the fight. A few more units collapsing on this last unit of Tomb Guard, and they might be just enough to deal with them. There is still plenty of models left on both of those units, and the Dark Riders just trying to kind of keep their distance. They don't want to be getting too close, but Arkan is getting very, very low himself as he wades in. This last summon of his is slowly dissipating on the last legs as the Tomb Guard trying to regroup with him, but the Shades are returning. 3 units in total, still with quite a bit of ammunition left. I mean, these guys have 11 volleys to be firing off as they are going to be firing in their shots. Tomb Prince tries to shut them down, but that is going to put him away from Arkan, who is going to be taking some shots, and he's getting very, very low. He is crumbling down to 300 HP and falling. I don't think Arkan is going to be able to sustain himself as his support crumbles away. These Tomb Guard are weak binding themselves, and I don't think Arkan's going to be lasting this for this final charge into the Shades. That volley can be going in this time. It looks like it's just going against the Tomb Guard. Not necessarily a bad pick there, because Arkan is crumbling, so he is down to 6 HP, and down he goes just before he's able to make contact, and those Shades are able to actually maintain their own leadership as they are getting very low themselves. And now Tomb Guard going to be in hot pursuit as the Tomb Prince going to be chasing down these Shades in the back, and with his speed should be able to escort these guys off the field. And then it's going to be down to some very beat down units. We still have Dread Spears, quite a bit of spears, and that's going to be a little bit of a fearful thing for that Tomb Prince, because these Dread Spears do have that bonus versus large. And of course these 2 Shades have plenty of ammunition left, not a whole lot, mind you. 3 rounds on these guys, 9 on them, but that will be enough to bring down the Tomb Prince if they're able to kind of turn and fire. But right now they are being chased down by these Tomb Guard. They can't really afford to turn and fight because they are getting very low in terms of leadership themselves. They are wavering as these Tomb Guard slowly crumble away, but they get just enough space and are going to be turning and trying to get a volley in, and those Tomb Guard dropping models 17, 16, 15, and dropping with that nice volley right into their face. But they are getting dangerously close to these Shades, and that Tomb Prince does decide that he needs to kind of turn and fire, and that is going to allow that last unit of Shades though to return, unable to finish that chase as he does kind of come back, and we'll see if that's going to come to bite him in the end. And the Tomb Guard down to 7 models, and they are almost completely gone, and away they go. It is now down to just the Tomb Prince as this last unit has fallen, and he's going to be charging on forward. He has 1,000 HP, but these Shades, plenty of models left, and he's going to be gunning, trying to skirt around these Dread Spears and Bleak Swords to get into these Shades for one charge, try and break them before turning his attention. And as he does get just enough space, he is going to get that charge off, and in the meantime he is going to pop that Tomb Strike, which will give him that fear, terror, and that extra melee attack, and he's going to cause these guys to shatter off the tray. These guys are going to rout, and with that chain rout is going to occur. The terror from these Dread Spears and the Bleak Swords going to be causing them to run for the hills, and all of the Dark Elf infantry who had that edge on the balance power are now all going to be running with these guys also terror routing just down to the Shades, but with that core of units, and they all are pretty much going to just be shattering at this point. And with that swing of the balance of power, the Tomb Kings are standing very, very strong. Last unit of Shades is on the very edge as they're going to try and get a volley off onto that Tomb Prince, but they are going to rout themselves, and that is going to be it. The last charge of the Tomb Prince. He comes in with that terror, causing all of the units to run for the hills, and the Hekara is going to be once again in the hands of the Tomb Kings. Let's take a look at the after battle report, see how things did fare on both sides. So for the Tomb Kings, Arkan racking up 1,700 in total value. Some nice Spirit Leeches throughout, getting some good value on that caster. For the Dark Elves, Tomb Prince, while not getting a whole ton of value, was able to do some nice work, causing that end-game terror rout, and was also able to rampage the Supreme Sorceress, causing them to be able to finish her off once and for all, which was a very nice pick there. Rest of the units not really doing a whole lot for those Spearmen. Tomb Guard doing pretty decent, 975 on these guys, 658, and the rest of the units doing all right. But unfortunately, Necropolis Knights taking quite a bit of damage early on. Those Reaper Bolt Throwers were really putting in some good work. Screaming Skull getting a nice chunk, able to use up all of its ammunition before finally charging into melee in the end. Supreme Sorcerer Fire did rather well, 2100. Rest of the chaff units, nothing really to write home about. And then we have the Shades, which are going to be doing some very nice work. 1500 on those guys. Dark Riders, unfortunately, got kind of collapsed upon by those Nehekran Horsemen, who did all right, but taking them out of the fight and reducing that mobility, really allowing Arkan and the Tomb Prince to kind of have their fun. Reaper Bolt Throwers doing all right, but a very close game. That's all I'm going to have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.